Thank you, honourable members. We have, and the benefit of the general public who are listening into this live stream this hour. Before us, the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and Defence. A very warm welcome to Reverend Peter Ngasipagatini and the team from the Methodist Church in Fiji and Rotuma. For the benefit of the general public, before us this morning, this hour is to submit on the optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child on the Involvement of Children in Armed Conflict, which Fiji signed on the 2nd of July 1993 and ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child on the 13th of August 1993. The optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child on the Involvement of Children in Armed Conflict is an international instrument that states parties to the CRC may ratify. The optional protocol aims to protect children from recruitment and use in hostilities. It was adopted by the General Assembly on the 25th May 2000 and entered into force on the 12th of February 2002. Thank you, Reverend Ngasipagatini and the team for acceding to our request. Before you proceed, I wish to introduce my committee, the Honourable Dr. Salik Govind, Deputy Chair, the Honourable Andi Selai, member, and also Honourable Pio Tikonundua, member, and myself, Honourable Alex O'Connor, as the Chair. With that word of introduction, Honourable, I beg your pardon, Reverend Ngasipagatini, a brief introduction of your good self, your team, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Chair of the Committee, or Standing Committee on Protocol, Optional Protocol to the Convention of the Rights of Children and the Involvement of Children in Armed Conflict, and honourable members of the committee, on behalf of the Methodist Church in Fiji and the President, I convey our sincere gratitude for giving us this opportunity to present the Methodist Church in Fiji view on this very important issue. First of all, before I give the floor to the presenter, I would like to introduce the team to you. Sir, Mr. Apisalomi Tundreu, the Secretary for Christian Citizenship and Social Services. Mr. Waisake Robatu, Secretary for Education of the Methodist Church. Reverend Said Merendengay, the Secretary for Methodist Women Fellowship. Reverend Siti Benipua, the Department Deputy Secretary for Christian Citizenship and Social Services, and myself, Reverend Peter Ngasipagatini, the Secretary for Young People's Department. I will now give the floor to the presenter from our side, the Secretary for Education, Mr. Waisake Rabat.
Thank you, sir, the Honourable Chair and Honourable members of the Standing Committee. I understand, sir, that you have a copy of what our presentation is about, which was forwarded to you. And may I seek clarification? We understand that we have 30 minutes for our presentation and the question and answer session to follow. Can we just get that clarification first, sir?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Rabatu. You have 30 minutes for your submission. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Again, thank you for the invite Our apologies for not having met the initial invitation, and we appreciate this second time to present to you. So our presentation is divided into perhaps four main areas. First is a presentation of the issue from the church context. We believe this was the whole point of our getting invited to do our presentation, and that is important to try and present things from the context of the Methodist Church or just a Christian in general. And then after that, we will try and raise issues with a couple of the articles already in the protocol before we touch on two other areas on item 4, and we will conclude with 6 recommendations. So that constitutes a brief of what I intend to do in these first few minutes. So starting with item 2, the issue from the church context. We understand, and this is very important for us to raise, the sanctity of human life. We believe, the church believes, that all of creation, including men, belong to God, and that we are just custodians of his creation for him, as revealed in his words, for which we will all give account to him on decisions that we make. I quote Psalms 24:1, "The earth is the Lord's, the world and all who live in it." And Romans chapter 14, verses 10 through 12, the relevant quote, "For we will all stand before God's judgment seat, so then each of us will give an account of himself to God." Close the quote. Furthermore, sir, we believe that man was specially created by God Almighty in his image for a particular purpose. And I quote Genesis 1:27, "God created man in his own image. Male and female, he created them." Sir, as if to confirm the value that our Creator has for us, his special creation, he has set a special commandment in the 10 Commandments for man's protection. I quote in Exodus 20:13, "Thou shalt not kill," unquote. Despite man's decision to live outside of his loving intentions for us, God's loving intentions for us, he has continued to pursue us to enable us to experience his original intentions for us. And I quote John 10:10, "I have come that you might have life and have it to the full." Sir, all these to us, to the church, suggest that we must carefully consider the decisions that we make or become a party to, as man does not belong to leaders or governments, but to Almighty God himself. Sir, we believe the universally accepted and defined definition of who a child is, and I quote, "A person who is under the age of 18 years, unquote, and as such should be accorded all the entitlements of a child, irrespective of where he or she is in the child spectrum." Right back to where from year 1 to year 17. And if he or she is even 17 years, 11 months at the other end of the spectrum, it is important that we see that that person is still a child. The scripture, sir, says in Psalms 127:4, I quote, "Children are a gift from the Lord," unquote. If children, sir, are precious gifts from God himself, then the onus is on us to cherish, to value, and appreciate them. Any denial we feel or mistreatment on our part must mean offending the giver of his most precious gift. And we believe there are grave consequences, individually and collectively. And we believe rightly, sir, for the abuse of these priceless gifts. I quote Matthew 18:6. If anyone causes one of these little ones to sin, it would be better for him to have a large millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea, unquote. So we believe, therefore, that we should all take heed of the stipulations of our national constitution, the Constitution of the Republic of Fiji, which specifically provides for the rights of a child to be protected from abuse, neglect, harmful practices, cultural practices for that matter, any form of violation, inhuman treatment and punishment, and hazardous and exploitative labor. Sir, we believe being in the military makes most of our children susceptible to most of the above. We believe children belong, sir, to the home and to society and not the military. For they are still physically and emotionally immature and easily manipulated. A very significant consideration in the context of military service, where they are exposed to acute levels of violence. As witnesses, they could be witnesses to deaths, to killings, to sexual violence, etc. Also, direct victims, and also as forced participants. Secondly, with the greater frequency of wars and easy to operate weapons nowadays, there is an ease of mass killings that were not there before. Thus, the chance of death is far, far greater. The significance, effect of armies such as ours, where it's dominated by a particular ethnic group, sir. Thirdly, they are at the most productive age. We are placing more importance, sir, we contend, on endangered animal species like turtles and cow than our young ones. We also believe that the use of children is a discrimination against them. Dare I say, sir, that their death and their loss perhaps is a lighter burden compared to the married, or perhaps the lesser of two evils. This discrimination against them, as they would miss out on experience of marriage and life as a whole when the future is open to them. I wish to now, sir, touch on particular articles that we have issues with. And first, we have issues that articles still acknowledge and accept the continued presence of children in the military. I quote Article 1, there is mention of members of the armed forces who have not attained the age of 18, unquote. Article 2, I quote, persons who have not attained the age of 18, unquote. Sir, we feel that this is a contradiction to the stated and expressed objective to prevent the recruitment of children. We ask, what is the desperate need to enlist and recruit children? Is it because they are cheaper, inverted comma, to have in terms of the money spent on feeding them and the pay that they get or their income? Is it because they are readily available? Is it because they are more convenient? They are a more convenient group, teachable and vulnerable in the chance. The weapons are easy to use given advance in technology, so that means it's easier to get just anyone uneducated to use these weapons. Or, sadly, are they being chosen because they are easily manipulated? So by starting with this, that we are still accepting them, we believe we are defeated from the start. Our search revealed that in 2007, there were 300,000 child soldiers in the world. In Chad alone, it was estimated there were 7,000 to 10,000 child soldiers in the same year. The second one is the acceptance of voluntary recruitment. I quote Article 2, not compulsorily recruited, unquote. Article 31, I quote, shall raise the minimum age for the voluntary recruitment, unquote. Article 3.2, quote, permit voluntary recruitment, unquote. And Article 3.3, permit voluntarily recruitment, unquote. Here we question the voluntary issue, sir. As the children, the parents, and the legal guardians may have pressing issues influencing their voluntary decisions. Issues such as an escape from poverty, perhaps seeking a source of income and source of food. The issue of being displaced from families. The issue of having limited access to education. The need for security and the need to do something or to follow a course. And we believe, sir, being children, sometimes they have very little or clear understanding of the implications, the full implications, the full impact of what they're getting into. Assuming, sir, that somehow they would be prevented from taking part in hostilities, sir, is our third issue on Article 1. That after being recruited, I quote, the age of 18 years, that they do not take part in hostilities used. Other than participating, sir, in the usual military fields that we are very familiar with, perhaps as engineers and other particular groups, they have been known to be used as cooks, as porters, as messengers, and that is common knowledge, that they have been also used. But it is common knowledge, sir, that they also have been used in areas mentioned because of their lack of education, their vulnerability, and their gullibility. They may be used as suicide bombers. They have been used as suicide bombers, as human shields. And sadly, sir, for female children, it's been known that they have been used for sexual purposes. It's been estimated, sir, that 10 to 20%, 10 to 30% of these children, soldier recruits, 10 to 30% of them are females, girls. So we wish to state that in war, it's difficult to monitor age, as priorities dictate decisions on the ground, on the field at any time. I now, sir, wish to go into item 4, a consideration, our plea for consideration of military presence or military influence in educational institutions like schools. A study that we looked into with regards to the British Army by the Child Soldier Intervention Group revealed that while they are not allowed to recruit in school, the presence of representation is a kind of recruitment. While a rep may be tasked to recruit only 2 out of 1,000 students, they, and I quote, also want to recruit the whole school to the ideas of military, unquote. Though presence is to instill self-discipline, loyalty and respect, strong leadership, teamwork and resilience, it must be noted, sir, that we are posing the question. At the same time, it discourages free thinking, and criticism of authority, a hallmark in the new society that we are trying to prepare our students for. Under 18 has historically served from that study been an important source of recruitment. The only country in Europe recruiting under 18, that's 25% of its recruitment, sir, is the United Kingdom, and taking now increasingly more of 16 years compared to 17. So, sir, we're not just talking about 18 years, they're going even further down. We think, sir, and I quote, that just as you can't advertise smoking and alcohol to children, you should not be able to advertise a job where there is a good chance, a high probability that you can be killed, maimed or disabled for the rest of your life, unquote. May I conclude this particular section, sir, on the military or naval cadet programs in Fiji schools. While no study has been done to ascertain their effectiveness, schools that have taken them have not displayed any difference, any significant difference in school discipline and performance. It should be of concern, though, that some various indiscipline, serious indisciplines, bordering on violence have frequently cropped up from one or two of these institutions who have been known to take up cadet programs. We also wish, sir, to highlight what we believe are things of concern with regards to violent video games and other things that are easily accessible to our young people nowadays. It would be interesting, sir, for a study on the effect of the lack of control on these games that our children are exposed to, now readily available in our homes and internet shops. There we equate, sir, the rise of bullying and sexual crimes in our country to these home invasions by the so-called harmless entertainment, which have, sir, taken over babysitting in most of the homes of our country. The state support for the family's role. Sir, the Methodist Church firmly declares that children are a blessing from God, worth beyond human capacity to measure, that they belong to God alone, with parents being their God-ordained stewards. And God gives parents the primary responsibility and authority for the education and the physical, the social, the emotional, and spiritual well-being of children. In the Church's social policy, sir, children and family, which includes its commitment to the articles of CRC, the Church declares firmly that parents cannot be replaced but must be strengthened by the state in this important responsibility. Children's upbringing in the national education system, sir, must help strengthen the role of the family institution. It is understood within the religious and cultural communities. It's enshrined in the nation's constitution. This requires real partnership and institutionalized collaboration rather than unilateral, legal exercise of authority by public service officers, whose duty it is to protect and strengthen our national governance and social institutions. Central in the national outcomes on the care and development of our young people, sir, are the essential attributes of good citizenship, as well as the opportunities to equitable development of our diverse communities in their rich heritage, aimed at making our nation prosper as a truly democratic society. It is important, sir, for the state to ensure that there is adequate protection and support for the essential role of the parents and the family in the bringing of the child, particularly also to properly establish the family strengthening role of the state and the public service. The need for discipline in principles and in life choices must be firmly inculcated in our young people at home and in their education, and not, quote, spare the rod and spoil the child by failing to insist on strength and authority in spiritual knowledge, insight, and transformation of a child. This must not be spared, sir, when regulatory authorities exercise their discretion about education, law enforcement and security services, online safety, etc. The Christian admonition to love one another and to turn the other cheek or to love your enemy should remain strong in our basic set of values. Without spiritual knowledge, our children, which includes our young adults, will be worthless, even dangerous to society. All of the articles of the CRC should be effectively and visibly incorporated in our key national systems and programs that affect our young people, and this protocol must reflect real commitment as a nation to the transformation for good that we claim to espouse in our community.
Okay.
In this current exercise, for example, official agencies have referred to the impact of the military involvement in our political and social development over the last 4 decades, on the military involvement on our young people's development of many citizens now in leadership roles in society and in all sectors, including, sir, our current political system. The core, presumably, and the church expects the state, especially through its governance and integrity institutions, to lead the way. Together with all our faith and cultural communities, the business sector, and civil society, is that we all are duty-bound today to free our future by removing that influence on the lives of our young people. It must be visible in our curriculum throughout their 18 years and in development programs in our media and other activities. I conclude, sir, with 6 recommendations that we wish to bring to your committee. In light of the issues we've raised above, we wish to humbly recommend the following. 1, sir, that we include the religious or the spiritual, definitely the Christian dimension to our conversation on the matter, as the issue in question involves a being we firmly believe is a spiritual one, no matter how other worldviews might want to deny it. 2, that leaders, governments acknowledge that they are accountable not only to us, the people, but more so to God Almighty, and we don't want to be paying the costly price that governments and leaders make. 3, that all needed structures important to the basic units, the family, we believe, be strengthened, and government to allow families to carry out their intended functions and not to try and carry it out as part of its services, as we believe it has failed, it will fail, and will be more costly in the end. 4, that we make a stand on putting a stop to any recruitment of any children for military services or armed conflicts. We stop it from the source, sir, and make it an international crime. 5, that we carry out a study on the possible correlation between the effects of violent, demonic, video games, and sexually explicit shows our citizens, especially our children, are exposed to with the rise in violent behavior and sexual crime. And lastly, that we relook at the present militarization of our nation, including cadet training in school. Sir, with our prayers and best wishes, thank you again for your patience and for your indulgence. We await your questions and your clarification. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ravatu, for that very comprehensive and informative submission. Honorable members, do you have any questions for Mr. Ravatu and the team before us? Thank you.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah, Honorable Pio.
First of all, I would like to thank Talang Kasivagatini, Mr. Ravatu, and the members of the team from the Methodist Church for comprehensive and very forthright and provocative brief this morning on the optional protocol on the rights of the child, as they have discussed with us today. Sorry, excuse me. Now, my question to the team, and they can, because Mr. Rabatu was doing the presentation on behalf of the church there, but I suppose anyone can answer this. There's two questions I have that I have raised continuously with the speakers that have come here, including the commander of the RFMF, the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Education on this matter, and also to the Office of the Solicitor General. The first one is, you have not raised it, but I'm going to raise this with you. And it speaks, this is on Section 7, subsection 3 of the RFMF Act, which allows the commander discretionary powers to recruit soldiers between the ages of 16 and 18. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but those powers are available today. And I've noted your concerns in terms of recommendation 7.6, and you noted earlier with regards to militarization and all that. But I'm interested in your views. I'm of the view that the protocol, for it to be, to be effected in its full spirit, that these discretionary powers needs to be reviewed. Now, I want to ask you, what is the view of the church in this, I suppose, a freedom that has been given to recruit below the age of 18? There are no guidelines at the moment with regards to that, but I suppose it's a discretionary power that the commander can exercise. So your views, please. I'm interested. That is the first question.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dua. The Honorable Chairman, just a brief response. The commitment by the Church to the Convention includes our understanding that it states when it ratifies the Convention, it will make necessary amendments to laws which are contrary to the intentions of the Convention. And we believe, and in the presentation, we've tried our best to convey this message, that when we ratify, we must follow it up with the changes in our regulations, along with the approach that must reflect our interest in changing the way we do things in a country to prevent the sort of values, the lack of opportunities or whatever that drives our people to fall into the kind of traps that will take the children away to military or any other armed activity. But we believe as a church that that includes the need to change the existing provisions that gives discretion to anybody who involve young people below 18 in any armed conflict of any kind. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Honorable Member.
Yeah, just a second question.
Yeah.
By the same token, I also raised this question to the other stakeholders I have mentioned earlier. The question arises about, and I think there is a current debate about the extent of militarization within our own governance, within government and within society. And hearing from the church today, you're also echoing those concerns, and particularly on recommendation 7.6 about the concerns of militarization effects on the National Cadet Training Program. Now, I'm glad you are raising, because I'm raising the same issue, and I've asked a similar question to the commander in that regard in the Ministry of Education, because I'm curious of the value, particularly not so much as in the cadet training, but in terms of the use of arms, as you are aware now, you've noted that you've noted 2 schools here that have a very, very significant disciplinary problem, and I'm only assuming here that it's related to the schools that I'm thinking that have been, brought to the national stage lately in terms of bullying and all that. So parents are concerned about that, and I really want to find out, because I'm not getting any straight answer on this in terms of the government presentation that have come through, because I want to understand the value. The church as an institution, primarily dealing in family, I want to understand the value of arms training in our conduct, in our current cadet training in schools, and how is that value adding to your children, value adding to, Methodist children for that matter, because you're part of the Methodist Church. Do you see any value of it at all? Apart from, and I'm hearing you're concerned about militarization, so I believe that you'd be concerned primarily even more with the use of arms, even though the rifles, of course, they've taken out the breech and the firing parts and the mechanisms. So I'm interested to know your views on it, because I do not quite understand the value of it.
Honorable Chairman and the Honorable Member and the members of the committee, I want to just make a brief statement about the way in which the church looks at the programs in the institution. There are probably a number of dimensions to this, but I just want to say that as far as the church is concerned, the upbringing of the children is with the parents and the family. And everything that is done in any program outside the family must support that role. And that role, of course, is defined by the way our people deal with virtues development, the development of young people within the context of what they understand is what a good human being and a good nation, a good community is like. And these, of course, are well understood. So the programs that we have highlighted belong to the state. They must in fact support that purpose, a God-given purpose. Some of the programs that are now run in the schools are well outside the control of the church. And so the proposals actually make it a responsibility of the state and the ministries, the public offices, to exercise those roles, whatever the regulations say. They must support the family. So these activities, which we believe is confusing to many of us, many parents don't understand, but because of the way the authorities are stepped, they will do whatever the principal says. Many of the cadet programs are not discussed with parents. They are approved by the school boards and the school principals, the staff who are in the system with the ministry. And so, sir, I think the church has made its point very clear, but it is unable to influence the way in which these matters are decided. That is probably the only thing we can say. Whatever the purpose of the curriculum, the activities that derive from that quite often is lost to many of us, because the relevance is supposed to be decided by the professionals in the schools and the ministry and government. But quite often, some of the activities are very doubtful in their contribution to our development, particularly after the experience of Fiji in the last 40 years or so. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and the Honourable Member.
Chair, on your behalf, I thank you. I thank the answers that were given, Nawali Utaltala and the rest of the team. Yeah.
Thank you, honourable members. Time is caught up with us again. I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Rovatu and the team from Methodist Church in Fiji for acceding to our request and coming before us this morning. Thank you. And if you have any departing remarks, Mr. Rovatu, or any member of your team, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and honorable members of the committee. On behalf of the team here, Methodist Church headquarters, and the Methodist Church, and the Methodist Church President, I would like to convey our once again, thank you very much for giving us this time, and we pray that God's blessings will be upon you, sir, and your committee in the work that you are called for this very important issue. Once again, thank you very much.
Vinaka, and a blessed afternoon to you all. Thank you.